Hello everyone, welcome to another Stukent expert session. My name is Trevor Erickson and we are excited today to have Dennis Yu with us. He is the CTO of BlitzMetrics and is an internationally recognized lecturer in Facebook marketing, and he's been featured in multiple places online, namely the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, LA Times, National Public Radio, TechCrunch, Fox News, pretty much you name it, and he's been featured there. Today he is going to be talking about what you need to know about the world of Facebook advertising. We're excited to learn this, so let's turn the time over to Dennis.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. We're going to give you an unorthodox view that students never get, most businesses never get, into the world that's behind Facebook. So you, as a student, get to see what it's like when you're interacting with your friends. But if you want to go behind the scenes and how it drives value for businesses, it's kind of like the green lines that go down the matrix. This is what counts. This is how you actually use it from a business standpoint. So we're on Trevor's profile. And if you know, in the matrix, there's numbers and all that go down the screen if you can see it. I can see that he has an ID. 109-399-8998. That's like a social security number. And everything on Facebook is this way. So when you realize that behind Facebook, even though they've got these apps and Messenger and Instagram and WhatsApp, behind all of these are IDs. So every business has an ID, every photo has an ID, and I know, based on this profile here, I could go to Stukent and do the same thing. I know who else is connected. I know what else they like, people who like Stukent. What else do they like? Now, this is the ID of Stukent. I don't have any special access here. Everything I'm doing, you can do yourself. A lot of people will say, oh, Dennis used to run Facebook Analytics, or Yahoo, I used to run analytics. Let's see, this front page ID. I'm doing multiple things at the same time. And my expertise has been in building big data systems. I can tell you stories another time about what it's like hanging out with Mark, but that's for another time. We only have half an hour here. But I want you to think about what it means if you have all the data on people, right? What could you do as a business? What could you do if you had unlimited time, unlimited targeting, unlimited data, there was no friction, right? What kinds of marketing activities could you do, and how's that different from traditional programs that you might see? So I just said, okay, what are the pages that are similar to Stukent? Well, what else are they doing? People who like this also like that. This is the same logic. When you go to Amazon and it says people who bought this also bought that, or Netflix, people who saw this, they also like to watch this movie. This is what you want to start to think about, because when you have this kind of micro-targeting, you can run ads like crazy. And one of the folks we like to work with, it's the Golden State Warriors, a lot of fun. And so we're selling tickets for them on Facebook by retargeting. So we know that if you are a season ticket holder, we have imported you and matched you to Facebook. We know if you're a fan of the Golden State Warriors page. We know if you've been to the website. We know if you've been to Ticketmaster. And because we're starting to tie all this stuff together, we're using Facebook as a utility, as a data platform, not Facebook as here's a place I'm going to post silly pictures every day, or here's a picture of my food. That's what a consumer does. But if you're a business and you've got business goals, so think about businesses that you know. It could be the pizza place down the street. It could be, Verizon. Maybe that's where you have your phone service. Like any kind of business, they've got all these different audiences. They've got presences in digital. They have people that are searching for keywords on Google. They got an email list. They have people checking in at the store. Here at the stadium, we have check-ins and we give away things like bobbleheads and stuff like that, right? These are all audiences on different channels. I mean, heck, they could be on Pinterest, Snapchat, whatever. It doesn't have to be social channels. And we're trying to connect them together so that we can deliver a truly awesome fan experience. Some people call it omni-channel, multi-channel marketing. Whatever it is you're just trying to tie all these audiences together. So here on Facebook, because we happen to be able to tie the people who are fans on Facebook with their email address and their phone number and all, it seems kind of creepy, but I promise you, anytime you sign up for a supermarket loyalty card, or to get the discount, or you sign up for a credit card to get the points, that stuff's already happened. It's not like this is the wave of the future. This stuff already happened 10 years ago, so you can remove your tinfoil hat and know that this is the world of data, where if you're in marketing, you're a data scientist at the same time, because you have to personalize, you have to be able to crank through some of these things. You don't have to know how to program, but you do have to know some of the stuff. I mean, people are thinking, I don't remember what happened in my first semester statistics, or I think math sucks, or whatever, but you do if you really want to do a killer job in marketing, you have to have a bit of the data side. In this case here, we know how often we can post content for the Golden State Warriors and still get interaction and still not get negative feedback, right? So we're looking at this data, we're finding out what's the most popular content, what time do we need to post, is it during the game, after the game? For example, we found that when we post our game recaps within 60 minutes of the game over, that is way more effective than posting it the next morning. And if you think about it, that makes sense in hindsight, right? If you know that you've got the fan's journey from audience to engagement to conversion, right? Conversion is they buy a ticket. Engagement is they click like, watch a video, pin something, retweet it, whatever. Audiences, they see the messages. Maybe their friend had done something. Steph Curry won the three-point contest, right? You have people that are trickling down this relationship funnel in the same way that, first date, kiss, marriage, the same kind of nurturing. That's the best way to think about social, because you have these different audiences. You have them all the way down to their users, and you're just trying to have an experience that is tailored to them without being creepy, right? So here's an example with the Warriors, and it doesn't have to be the Warriors. It could be anybody. The same. It doesn't apply. It doesn't matter if it's a nonprofit. It could be a car company. It could be some startup that you have. Maybe it's the dry cleaner. Whoever it is, like the same principles apply to them. Remember, we said because Facebook is a platform. It's like the utility company, right? Whatever your local gas, electricity, whatever company is, that's the way you want to think about Facebook, because they have the data. 1.3 billion users, half of them logging in every day, 1 billion pictures uploaded every day. All the stats, right? It's not a social network, it's a data platform against which you can run all kinds of cool marketing experiments. So here it is, we're showing that in this campaign for the Warriors, we spent $3,500 and we got back $28,000 in ticket sales on Ticketmaster. That means an 8-to-1 ROAS. So when you're looking at the ROI of social media, it's not how many fans do I have, or how many tweets, or whatever. Those are top-of-funnel nonsense, vanity metrics. What we care about from a business standpoint is how much money did I make? How many phone calls did the plumber generate? How many people bought the shoes on Adidas.com when they came out with, whoever, Kevin Rose, right? That's what, when you think about the business goal, it's the same business goal, whether it's for your email marketing, your direct mail, for the big sign that you put in the shopping center for the place that you have. It's any kind of activity that you have. You're going to assign an ROI. It's the same business goals you're going to have on Facebook, of course, right, as you would have anywhere else. And so you can see here are examples. So a lot of people think social media is just posting stuff. Well, here you've got a video, Steph Curry versus Steve Kerr, who's better at free throws. Curry beat him, even though Kerr's pretty good himself. He's the head coach of the Warriors, right? And we're looking at what's going on here. Now, it's great that you've got 7 million people that have seen it, and lots of people are liking it, but did this drive ticket sales? Did this drive engagement? Did more people come to the website and sign up to be on the insiders offer list to find out when tickets are going on sale? There's a family pack thing going on. Oh, four tickets and hot dogs for $100, or whatever it might be, right? Are we engaging people? Are people taking further steps in the relationship because of this content here? And this is what you have to be able to do. So they're seeing this, like 70% of this content in the United States is being seen on mobile. But what do? They're also sitting in front of the TV. They've got their iPad out. They've got a desktop where maybe they prefer buying stuff because they've typed in their credit card information there. They don't want to type in their credit card on their phone. So now you got to start tracking cross-device. If you can't track cross-device, you can't track the ROI. Think about that, right? I'm sure everyone listening here, if you're a student, you've got your phone in your pocket, you've got your laptop out, you've got a TV, you've got ads that are coming at you from all over the place. So it's a fractional attention economy now, right? There's multiple things competing to interrupt you, and social is just one of them. That's why Facebook has so many apps, because they know that you're used to having multiple things going on at the same time. That's why Facebook will keep buying these other companies. It's why they have WhatsApp and Instagram and some other stuff that's coming out that will tie to payment systems, and it's all going to be part of the same thing. Whether it's basically like Skype or Search and Uber and hanging out with your friends, or sharing photos on your phone. All that stuff is going to be tied in together because Facebook is the Borg. It's the platform where all the data comes together and you just plug in. It's not I'm going to post pictures of my food, or I just want to creep on this other girl because I'm interested in her. I mean, yeah, there's people that do that, but from a business standpoint, the thing that funds it, that helps Facebook make their couple $1 billion every quarter, is businesses that are buying advertising, and advertising is what makes it free for everybody in the same way that Gmail is free for you, not because Google's trying to be nice, but because they want your data, right? And that data allows us to use these tools. And if you're a business owner, you're going to be using Business Manager on Facebook, and it's at business.facebook.com. Go there later, and you can see, you can configure lots of ad accounts. You can configure pages that you're in charge of. You can configure, people that work in your business. So this is like an agency level management. Now, if you're a business, not a student where you're hanging out in your profile, but you're managing a business page, right? Users have profiles. Businesses have pages. Don't ever say, "Oh, come to my page." That's not a page. That's a user profile, right? Pages you can advertise. User profiles, people's ad accounts, you cannot, right? Those are all people-based things. And when you have these kinds of things tied together, you're able to look at any particular account, which is a business, for example, and you could see, like, I'll go to Hot Dog Collars. What do these guys do? They sell dog collars. You can personalize a dog collar with your pet's name or with your favorite sports team, whatever. And so here they are, they're configuring what's going on, and they're driving people to buy personalized dog collars. Here they're doing it for $7.50 to drive a sale of a dog collar. Well, is that good or bad? Well, let's see. If they sell dog collars for $30, and if you subtract out all the margin and the cost of producing it and shipping it and all that, maybe they can afford to sell it for $10. Or, the cost of marketing is $10, and if they're able to pay $7.50 to drive a conversion that's worth $10, then we know that that's profitable. Then it's a matter of just managing, how do I get more conversions at a lower cost per conversion? It's the same dynamic that you have in any kind of marketing. It could be direct mail, it could be billboards, even though it's kind of harder to measure billboards unless you have a phone number like Better Call Saul, right? You still have the same mechanics of more conversions at a lower cost per conversion, but if you have all these audiences set up, if you've imported your email, your website, I know that you guys are not actually doing this stuff. This is what we do day to day. We have teams of students that we teach how to do this day to day. So don't worry about exactly the mechanics. Just sort of understand these concepts as I blow through these things really quickly, right? I'm tying together people who have just been to the website. Here, I've got 100 people. They've been to the website and abandoned the shopping cart in the last day. You know those ads that follow you around, right? Like maybe you're looking at, I don't know, eBay or Amazon, or you're looking at some hotel. You're looking at something, like some red shoes or something. And those things follow you around all over the place, in your mail, right, other sites you're going to. That's retargeting. And so the core of Facebook marketing or social marketing, and same with Google, is retargeting, where they follow you around, because it's called people-based targeting, which is what Facebook calls it now, right? And when I have people who have bought, I can create these look-alike audiences where I merely say, hey, here's a list of my best customers. Can you just automatically use your magic and make a bunch of people that look just like the people who are like this particular audience? I got my email list. I have all these, right? I tie all these things together, and I tie it with all my content. I configure my goals. When I configure my goals, I'm able to let Facebook do most of the work for me. So if you're a business owner, you care about goals. It just happens to be that there's 10 business goals. What do you want? I want to drive conversions. I want people to install my app. I want them to know when they're within a couple blocks of my place. Hey, come in. I've got chocolate chip ice cream and it's hot outside, right? I want people to watch my video. I want them to do, whatever. Most businesses, they care about a website conversion, meaning you come to the website, you put in a credit card, you buy something. The local businesses, they care about driving clicks and leads, which can also be website conversions, because maybe you're a plumber and you want people, or you're a locksmith and you want people to call a number late at night. They lock the keys in the car, and you say, okay, a call is worth, I don't know, $50 because I know I can charge them $100 because she's locked out and whatever, right? So it's just the math of what a conversion's worth, or what any of these actions are worth, and then what you're willing to pay for it, and the difference is margin, which is kind of like profit, right? So if you choose an objective, and then you choose the content associated with it, then you tie it in with these different audiences, right? So that's called goals, content, targeting. The sequence of those three is the core of online marketing, right? Goals, content, targeting, we'll cover that in just a minute. And all of these assets are going to be configured inside here. They'll be configured if you have a product catalog. If you've got lots of things, let's say you sell 100 different dog collars or 100 different kinds of shoes and different sizes and dresses and shorts and whatever, then you're going to configure a product catalog. And then you let Facebook do this optimization where they know that when Trevor, he likes the LeBron James whatever shoes, he also will likely buy the Cavaliers jersey. Okay, well, you're letting Facebook do the heavy lifting because they know that Warriors fans, they like Steph Curry, and they're more likely to live in the Bay Area, and they're more likely to, be liberal, and whatever it might be, right? You're letting Facebook do this logic, and for those who are math people, that's called collaborative filtering. So if you import all these different items, then you're letting the system, which has all the data, do the heavy lifting and do all that kind of matching. It may be in a few years from now. We had lunch a couple times at Facebook last week at the big conference, and we were talking about how painful it was to configure all of these things. But, in a few years it'll be such that you say what your goals are. My goals are I want to drive sales at less than $15 per sale. You put in your content, you import your audiences, and then you press a button, and then the system just takes just decides the budget, creates the ads, optimizes them. Every once in a while it comes back to you and says, hey, Trevor, you really need to refresh your landing page, or this part of the website isn't very effective, or your competitor is doing this one thing. You really need to respond and say something. Or somebody's complaining. They left a negative review on Yelp. You really should go back and reply to them because it's hurting you, right? That's what, when you hear about AI and robots and self-driving cars and robots or computers that are so smart, that's what we're talking about, because they have all this data and all the logic that sits on top of it. And you're starting to see this come through in these ad-driven systems. And now it feels like this. So it's kind of funny because we were over. This is called the Gravity Room. If anyone's been over to Facebook's headquarters, and it's actually, if you turn this thing 90 degrees to the left, everything's bolted to the wall, but it looks like you're on the ceiling as you take your picture and then you turn it sideways. Isn't that kind of cool, Trevor? And so this is how we feel like marketing has become, because the traditional marketing is like the Mad Men, Better Call Saul. You come up with the jingle, like, you think about the different kinds of songs that they would run on TV where everyone got the same message, which is universal advertising, right? Where you see the same message play over and over again on your favorite TV show where you're like, I'm tired of that Verizon commercial. They played it like 50 times already, And so you can't do that anymore, because now that you have all these tiny audiences with all this data, you have to actually then personalize, which means you're creating like thousands of customers at the same time, or thousands of commercials at the same time. And that means that if you are in business, you are not only a marketer, but you are a data geek at the same time. So it's like asking a painter to be an engineer, or it's asking an accountant to be able to draw. It's kind of crazy, because the amount of data has required us to learn how to do these kinds of things. Now, the way to get around this whole nonsense of how confusing this is you have to put everything into a checklist, right? Because my friend Mark Lack, who is like a young Tony Robbins, he was telling me, see if I can say it properly, yard by yard, progress is hard, step by step, or it's easy peasy. I forgot. Well, basically, if you break stuff into little pieces, it is easier, right? If you break things into checklists, so you think about how difficult it might be to run a restaurant. If you were to open a restaurant, oh man, I got to get a lease, I have to create a menu, I have to supervise people, I have to make food, I have to, whatever, clean the bathrooms. But you have someone like McDonald's where they've broken it into lots of little pieces. Then it becomes easier, such that an 18-year-old that's not even paying attention can make the French fries, and they're amazing. No matter where you go, the French fries are always awesome. At McDonald's, you have consistency. Even though the complexity of running a business could be difficult, you've broken it into lots of little pieces. So our view is that you can take the most complex of things, and if you can really just boil it down into little checklists, do this, click here, click on that thing, input this, take a picture of that, then you can drive success for businesses, even that are really complex, like the Warriors or Rosetta Stone or guys like that we've really been fortunate to be able to work with, and then teach students like you guys that are looking for jobs that are hopefully better than paper or plastic or those food kinds of jobs, right? Because you're in school and you don't have a degree yet, then you can actually follow these checklists and execute campaigns for companies like this, right? So the way it works is the triad is what you stand for. It's your passion. So what do you like to do in your free time? Do you like certain kinds of cars? Do you like Jack Daniels? They're our favorite client that we work with. Do you like to play basketball? Do you like to read a certain magazine? Do you have a certain kind of hobby? You like to ride your bicycle? Whatever it might be, that's your mission, your passion. It's what you stand for. There are companies in those areas that tie to your passion. So if you can execute the marketing for them, which is the 3 marketing triangles, based on a general business understanding of being able to communicate, then you will be successful, and thus you've tied your passion, the red, the triad, to the execution, the green, through this marketing engine, the blue, right? And so that means you as a student, you get paired with the business. Either you apply, you go through HR and get rejected, you work with a school program, but you're the student, you're the analyst, you're trying to get that work experience. You're driving this for something that you know a lot about because you're a customer, because you really like the environment and Ford Priuses and electric vehicles, so you do this for Ford. It sounds crazy, but it's actually how it works. And you drive different points in the funnel, audience engagement, conversion, like we talked about, right? And if you have everything set up properly, you know what the business metrics are, these business goals, goals-based targeting, and like you see the ads, Twitter and Google and Facebook, all these guys allow you to buy based on business objectives, right? And so you know if you're profitable or not. You're figuring out what is working, what isn't, and then you're taking action. So that's called metrics analysis action. Again, if you have those goals and you have targeting and content associated with it, you're tying together combinations of content plus targeting, which is an ad, right? An ad is nothing more. Forget about the fact that you're paying for it. Forget about stuff that you get in the mail with coupons. It's nothing more than content, which hopefully is interesting and relevant, not just self-promotional, and it's delivered against particular audiences. Now, if it's targeted really well, there should be no difference between what a brand shows you in the Facebook newsfeed versus what your friends are. It should be just as good, as interesting, as relevant, right, if we're doing a really good job, if the brands are really being social and they understand where they are in the relationship with you. If you just bought a car, then it's not time to try to sell you on why you need to buy a car. Now it's time to tell you about oil changes and warranties and modifications and how to protect your car. Right? It's understanding where they are, which goes back to the funnel. Right, which is the right content at the time. If your car is breaking down or you're graduating and your dad said, hey, I'll buy you a car if you graduate or whatever, then you want to see car commercials, right? Because sometimes you don't. So you need to know if the targeting is good, then the content is relevant, and thus it's not seen as advertising, not seen as intrusive. So you as a student, you've got to be able to execute. Do, delegate, deletes, like the David Allen getting things done. You need to have a system. We have a system behind it. Every one of these triangles has a system behind it. When you are working with a business and when you're training up other people, right? Communicate, iterate, delegate. You have to be able to do it yourself before other people can do it. You always have to be able to respond. You have to be organized. How do you organize? So that when you're a student, you're learning. When you're managing other people, you're doing it. And then when you are running a business and you're managing the business instead of working in the business, then you're teaching other people because you've gone through this progression. Because as a student, you're paying money to learn, but then at some point you've got to reverse that where they pay you. And then you start to train all these other people, and you have systems in place, and then you have the thing that you stand for, and you have a business behind it supporting it. Content checklist software is what we do. We produce tons of content. The more we learn, the more we execute, the more checklists we can create, which then drives software. And we happen to make some software that does social analytics and helps students run Facebook ads on behalf of different businesses. If you're a business, you've got 3 primary functions. The marketing is the most important function now. And marketing includes sales, it includes product and understanding who it really is that you're serving and how do you make the customer happy. It is not brochures that you send to people. Marketing is much more than that, right? It requires really being a customer, wearing their shoes, being as fanatical as Steve Jobs about the inside of the iPod, that kind of thing, which then drives into operations, which allows you to have repeatable excellence. So the French fries are the same no matter where you go. In finance, so that you're doing it in a profitable way because you're measuring how things are doing, and you're measuring the customer relationship, and so you continue to iterate, and that's how you drive success on Facebook. So it may look like there's all these random things because you'll create a report for the Warriors, you'll look at how much money you're spending and how much profit there is, you'll look at content that you've got to create. How do you know which of these things are important to work on at any point in time? How do you know, like here, Rosetta Stone, we're $299, there's a sale going on. Okay, well, how do you know how that sale's doing? How do you know who's converting? How do you know when that ad is working or not working? How do you know which keyword it is? Or how do you know there's a problem with the website, it's loading too slow? These are all the things you need data to be able to tell you of the 1,000 things you could be working on, which items are the ones that are going to produce the biggest impact right now. You never have enough time. As a student, you might think you don't have much time because you're busy. Wait till you hit the workforce. You're going to find you have 1/10 the time. You get busier and busier and busier. You never get less busy. So you really got to have a system. You've got to have these kinds of checklists. You've got to know how to prioritize your time. And to be efficient, you're going to need these kinds of checklists. So we've created these checklists. If you want to go through them, they're actually at BlitzMetrics.com. And you'll see that our CEO, he's 21 years old, and he and I, we created these things. But when you take any kind of thing, any kind of complex goal, and you break it into checklists, this happens to be a checklist on how do you set up Facebook and Google ads the right way, but they're based on the principles of the 9 triangles. They're based on understanding that we need to start with these business goals. Tie the business goals to content that truly, right, if you want to drive local awareness, what are you going to say? Hey, come in, we're open for another 2 hours, you've got a happy hour menu, right? You have content associated to each of these things, right, which are goals. And you have targeting, which are audiences, and there's this configuration, we call it the plumbing, that you have to tie together, right? So when you have all this together, you have success on Facebook, and then it runs by itself. And that's what the power is, where on social, where you get these things tied together, and you're not having to build everything over every day and continue to post silly photos of dogs on Friday, those kinds of things that people try to do when they think of social media, instead of understanding that there's a lot of ads and stuff like that behind the scenes. Okay? So that's what we have. Maybe we can take some questions. I know I went really fast. This is actually a full week of lessons when we have our BlitzMetrics University, but we condensed it for you guys in 30 minutes. Let's take a look. I think, okay, here we go. How many emails should you have in your customer database before you start doing a lookalike audience? Technically, the answer is 20, but I would really like to see 1,000, because the more data you have, the more. And by the way, when you create a lookalike audience, it doesn't have to be against just emails. It can be against people who've converted. It could be against people who've been to a particular web page, which is based on a website custom audience, right? Which is dropping a JavaScript pixel, which is like a Google Analytics pixel. So the more data you have, obviously, the better, but don't let that stop you. We have a strategy that we call $1 a day, right? $1 a day on Facebook advertising. The whole thing like, okay, forego a coffee once a week just so you can do this. You as a student, even if you don't have a job, or if you're a professor, or if you're a small business owner, you can certainly afford $1 a day. And we say that you should use $1 a day to do advertising. But it's not advertising in the traditional advertising buy my stuff kind of way, but to make sure your content is being seen by exactly the right people. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But that's something you need to do right now based on personal branding. And I'll show you how powerful this is. It's the most effective thing you can do in a career, job, professional development kind of thing. Where should I go to sharpen my Facebook marketing skills? Facebook last week actually created a bunch of new training items, and there's 2 of them that I think are interesting in particular. One is called Facebook Blueprint, facebook.com/blueprint, and blueprint, okay? And there are these modules. I'm not going to go through them now. I think there's 34 of them, and they cover all sorts of stuff you would need. Of course, it's ad-focused, of course. That's what you'd expect, but it helps you. They created videos. It's interactive. There's quizzes at the end of each of them. Don't get all freaked out thinking like, oh, man, there's 34 of these. Each of them takes like 3 minutes to do. And yeah, it's easy. And then there's facebook.com/business, and that's also very ads oriented. So this teaches you what some of the concepts are with Facebook based on what your goal is. It teaches you how to use a page, how do you create good content, what happens if people complain, how do you handle people that complain, what do you do with if you're trying to drive e-commerce, what happens if you're a retail location, what if you're a startup and you're just getting going, what if you're, right? So how do you take care of these different business objectives? And even though we write on places like Inside Facebook, All Facebook, right? You can see like I'm an author here on Adweek, so I write here weekly. Oh, look, this is one, four horsemen of social media employment. If you want to get a job in social media, here's the 4 areas you need to focus on, right? So you could look at stuff that I write or other folks write, but man, isn't it, if you think about it, Trevor, hard to beat Facebook for their own stuff? I mean, you're just going to want to use Facebook's own stuff.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I was unfamiliar with Blueprint, so that
Yeah.
I think that's an extremely valuable tool. And that you said that's brand new as of last week.
Yeah, I know Facebook keeps producing these things and no one knows about it. Every time I ask, like maybe I'm not even kidding, like 2% of the time do people actually even know about it. So we've been actually we've aggregated a lot of this stuff on our site. So if you go to BlitzMetrics.com, you'll see that if you're a student or a business, we put these things together. I guess we call these students unturns instead of interns because they're anything but an intern. They actually get to do something interesting instead of get coffee or do menial sorts of things.
I
Right?
like it.
So, yeah, so we want to share, and this is our CEO. He's 21 years old, Alex. I don't like to get on the camera, but he does. I'm the CTO. I'm a programmer, right? So we produce lots of content that's geared towards students, and we're here to teach. We don't charge anything. We're funded completely by these businesses, and the businesses buy packages, and that's what we want to do in sharing. But back to your earlier question, or I guess a combination of those other two questions, to learn and keep up with all the new things, it's easy to get confused. It's like, oh man, I can't keep up because every day there's all this new stuff. What I want you to think about is your personal brand and what you stand for, right? And this is a tough one because most people, the simplest questions are the toughest ones to answer. So what is it that you really like in a world where there is no need for money or no fear of failure? What would you be doing? Would you be, hanging out playing basketball? Would you be, helping children build wells in certain countries? What would you be doing, right? So if you start creating content around that, and you start interviewing people in that area, and you pretend that you're a journalist, and you create a blog, and you tie all of your profiles together, like your blog and your LinkedIn, and your Facebook and your Twitter and your Quora and all that kind of stuff, and you start tying with the people that are in alignment with your goal, then you do the $1-a-day strategy, right? The $1-a-day strategy is making sure your stuff is seen. So I know we're almost out of time. I'm going to show one example, but hopefully it'll be a good enough example that you guys understand what I'm talking about. So this is an example of how the $1-a-day strategy is important. Okay, this guy, he's got a Toyota. He went to the dealership. They screwed him over, basically. They wouldn't take care of him. He complained. And then he took this and he made an ad. And he wrote this blog post, of course, right? And he created an ad promoting this URL. And I'll actually show you how easy it is. I'll do it. This is the $1-a-day strategy, right? I want people to see this blog post I wrote. Here it is. I pasted it in. And I want people who work at Toyota in senior management to see this. This is how powerful Facebook targeting is. Look, more demographics, work, employers, not people who like Toyota, people who work at Toyota. Okay? Here's Toyota. And then I'm going to target people in Japan because I want their headquarters. And then I can target people who are in management because I can go by their job title. And so, okay, now I got people who work at Toyota in Japan, 15,000. I narrow it down to people who are a little bit older, they're senior vice president, or whatever it is, right? This is what he wrote this article. We spent $1 a day. Next day, he got a call from the dealer saying, I don't know what you're doing. I'm getting calls from Japan at headquarters. Stop what you're doing. Like, okay, I'll fix your car, just bring it in. And then he calls, the dealer calls, general manager calls every month saying, hey, how's everything going? Hey, can I give you a free oil change? Just want to check in, see what. So this is you can use it as a megaphone to complain because you can target people who work in the media, but I'm not saying use it to abuse it. I'm saying know that this kind of thing is super, super powerful. Maybe one more quick example. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so this is USA Today, right? High profile. Oh, wow, we get quoted on USA Today, and it says, so our CEO, we gave them this data at the request of USA Today. Well, how did they come and request us when they wanted some information on Facebook marketing and some stats on Ice Bucket versus Ferguson? It's because they saw that we had, oops, that's not the right one. They saw that we were quoted in the LA Times. Right? So here's an article in the LA Times where I'm giving them a bunch of statistics, but then we take this article and then we promote it to people who work at USA Today, who work at the Wall Street Journal, who work at like whatever, and then they see us as an expert, even though we're spending $1 a day. So you want to think about if you produce amazing content on your blog or whatever, then you're seen as an authority because you're interviewing other people. Then you're going to get more citations. You get a citation like in the LA Times or in the school newspaper or someone else mentions you, and you continue to re-amplify it, and you have a snowball effect. That's the dollar a day strategy, where it's implied endorsement, it's word of mouth, where you're amplifying what other people say. Because, if I told you, Trevor, hey, I'm really good at Facebook ads, you're like, yeah, whatever. But if you hear Facebook, and Mark Zuckerberg talked about us last week and talked about our case study with Rosetta Stone, what do you think has more credibility? If Mark Zuckerberg says, hey, BlitzMetrics is really good at Facebook ads, or I just come to you, some random guy, saying, hey, I'm really good at Facebook ads, what are you going to believe?
I think I'm going to go with Mark.
That's right. So that's what you got to do. And that's where advertising and personal branding have fallen to. So if you're a brand, if you're a business, if you're a student, you want to get other people to endorse you, just like this, LA Times, right, this kind of thing. And it's not as hard as you think if you follow the checklist that ties to that. And that's the personal branding checklist. We don't have time to go through it, but that's what we're talking about.
Hey, is there any way we can get a hold of that personal branding checklist? Would that be available in our show notes?
Yeah, I'll give you a URL for that.
So besides BlitzMetrics, is there any place else where we can go to follow you, follow your company, learn more about what you're doing, and then doing online?
Well, of course. Just follow me on Facebook. I'm at the 5,000 friend limit, so I can't take any more people. But you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can certainly email me, Dennis at BlitzMetrics. Right? Email is the language of business, even though it's not seen as cool anymore. But yeah, Dennis at BlitzMetrics. You can just go to BlitzMetrics.com. You can message me on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm generally available. I answer any question. It may take me a few days, but I always reply to every email.
Yeah, perfect. We'll link those up in the show notes, and I can attest, Dennis does get back to you very quickly. Got back to me extremely fast, so very professional. Loved everything about this expert session. You probably noticed that up until this point, we've done more of a presentation style module, and this expert session was, sit down, put your seatbelt on, and enjoy the ride. And the last few examples that Dennis showed on how quickly and easily you can apply that dollar a day strategy and see some fantastic results was awesome. So once again, Dennis, I appreciate your time today. Stukent Nation is going to be excited to learn from you.
Thank you, Stukent friends, Trevor, for setting this up.